Bruce Lee was well-hard. This surely is the most redundant opening sentence to ever appear on any video on the whole of YouTube. And we're still talking about how hard he is today, after all. 50 years since he died. 50 years! In games alone, there are 10 titles that bear the Bruce Lee name, all obviously released after he split-kicked off this mortal coil. There has also been countless others that feature some kind of tribute character, such as Martial Law in Tekken or Fei Long in Street Fighter. Ronnie Pickering, the second hardest man in all of existence, has yet to get any such treatment. He's appeared in no video games and he's had no tribute characters, although really he bloody should have. I've chosen to look at Bruce Lee's 2003 video game on the Gameboy Advance today because that's what I always seem to do, isn't it? But there was a real swing in quality on all of his titles. But we're not going to be talking about those other titles today. Oh no, don't you worry about them at all. But the old 8-bit one is bloody good, isn't it? Anyway, let's instead focus on something you probably know about already, which is of course the great man himself. Lee Jun Fan, which was his original name, was born in California, surprisingly, on November the 27th, 1940, to a Hong Kong-birthed opera singer and a Shanghai-bred mother. Even as a harmless, non-savagely violent child, Lee was involved in stage and screen productions, making his debut in a movie when he was just 9 years old. Bruce wasn't really suited to schoolwork and so started spending more time practicing martial arts, first with the boxing coach Monk at his college and then with the famous trainer of Wing Chun, Yip Man. He won numerous contests in various self-defense competitions but also started finding himself in trouble with the law. Naughty boy. After a while, Lee returned to the US and focused on learning various martial arts and perfecting his acting, alongside developing his own martial art, Jeet Kune Do. He got his breakthrough in America, appearing as Kato in the 1960 series The Green Hornet, guesting in the Adam West Batman series, of all things. He would then grow tired of supporting roles in America, so returned to Hong Kong and worked for Shaw Brothers and Golden Harvest Studios on legendary martial arts films like Big Boss, Fist of Fury, Way of the Dragon and Game of Death. Warner Brothers noted his sharp rise in fame not only in the East but in the States as well, and so part-funded Enter the Dragon. What should have been the start of an incredibly successful career back in the United States as a leading man was stopped in its tracks when Lee died suddenly from a cerebral edema whilst finishing audio work for the Enter the Dragon movie that was due for release just a week later. Despite this tragic curtailing of the life of Bruce Lee, it is unquestionable that he remains one of the most recognisable and iconically legendary figures of the 20th century. I mean, he could definitely have the other people in that conversation. 1-inch punch to Marilyn Monroe, roundhouse kick to Hitler, nunchucks to Mickey Mouse, and a bow staff to Mario's moustache that would knock it clean off his stupid Italian face. Defo, he could win all of those. Muhammad Ali? Not sure on that one, actually. That would be tight. Anyway, Bruce Lee, Return of the Legend, came out in 2003 courtesy of Vivendi Universal Games. This was about a year after they published another Bruce Lee licensed title. That one was called Quest of the Dragon, which came out on the Xbox. Unfortunately, that had a dismal critical and commercial response, and it was maybe the performance of that title that made Vivendi less confident about distributing this one, a mere handheld title, with Return of the Legend having its distribution scaled back significantly as a result. In-box complete copies can go for around $250 on eBay as a result these days. Return of the Legend has your Lee-resembling avatar cast as Hai Feng, a student thirsty for revenge after his master was slain by the insidious Yakan Corporation. It's clear that Vivendi and programmers Vicarious Visions are going for a Lost Bruce Lee vibe with this game. A lot of the setting, music and plot points feel lifted from a 70s Hong Kong production. Yes, even this villain who looks like Kevin Eldon's interpretation of Rod Hull.
One can say that my two arms are in perfect working order and are as real as is the long day.
It's a good choice for such a specifically personality-based license to capture most of the type of films that he was in at that time. As you can see from the gameplay, we're in the old Gameboy Advance standard side-scrolling platformer territory here. Our digital Bruce vaults, leaps, climbs and charges around a multiply scrolling set of environments from warehouses, martial arts schools, caves and container ships in his quest for revenge. Action centres very much on Bruce's agility and hand-to-hand combat skills, with full use of the Game Boy's front face and controller buttons coming into play. As well as your jump button, you'll utilise a block, a kick and a punch button with different combinations of them and the direction pad, giving you a neat overview of Lee's most iconic strikes. It works reasonably well, though the agility-based flips and platform grips can feel a little bit finicky at times, particularly in a later game sequence that centres around Feng's high-rise escape from custody. You may say a swear word or two in a shrill Bruce Lee striking noise-like tone. Bollocks! That sounds more like a chicken. Also a little bit aggravating are the stealth sequences where Bruce has to creep into various headquarters without being spotted, sometimes by ducking into darkened alleys and other times by clambering on fencing. The enemies are very inconsistent in these sections, sometimes having the vision of a hawk spying prey from 5 miles up, and at other times exhibiting similar eyesight to that of an octogenarian male reading the menu at a kebab shop at 11 o'clock at night. These sequences also make no sense thematically. The number of goons are notably reduced in these stealth sections than in the action-based levels. Surely he can just kick their heads in. Why is he creeping about? If the enemies in these levels were armed, say with machine guns, that even this most agile and powerful of martial arts masters couldn't fight against, then that would make more sense. As it is, they do not. They just carry around the same weapons or lack of weapons, and maybe the odd pistol, as any other level. They don't make sense, really. Other than these minor qualms, it's pretty decent. There's a fluidity to the fight controls that will have you punching and kicking with swaggering confidence. Dotted around the levels, too, are weapons like throwing knives, nunchucker and a bow staff that you can put away or bring out with a press of the select button. These widen the moveset even further and deal a lot more damage, though they will break after 10 or so uses. Must have bought them from Poundland. You might want to save them, though, for some of the bosses, who do seem to often look like iconic movie adversaries from Lee's past. There's Jim Kelly, and almost certainly a chain-wielding Chuck Norris type called Texas, which is of course where he's from. Throughout the game, you get subtly 70s waka-chaka movie score music playing throughout, and bright vivid colours give the variety of locations a nice aesthetic. When you get spotted by a minion, they seem to do an impression of WWE wrestler LA Knight. The challenge of the game is pretty strong, and there's a decent longevity to it. You have infinite attempts with which to take on these challenges, which not only lend themselves to a game designed to be played on a handheld device, but also it fits in with the sort of 70s feel of it. You can imagine Bruce Lee made a few mistakes here and there, and this is just essentially a new cut of the movie being played out. You will see the end of the game. It might not be in 1 or 2 bus journeys, but there is a good challenge here, especially on the medium and director's cut levels of difficulty. You can unlock more iconic costumes for Lee after finishing the game on the harder settings, although some of these are a fair bit disappointing, to be honest. The colour scheme of the Kill Bill style striped tracksuit is there, but not actually the tracksuit itself. That's a bit of a shame. Bruce Lee, The Legend Returns, is all in all pretty good. It's applied a genuine love of the great man's oeuvre to an already pretty playable Prince of Persia style action platformer. It probably deserves a bigger audience, and thanks to viewer Kampolsky for suggesting me to look at it. Thank you, pal. IGN were fans too, calling it a very cool Game Boy Advance game. They said the beat-em-up action and platform gameplay is extremely solid, with well-designed levels and a decent challenge all the way through. They gave it an 8.4 in May 2003. Well, where next? Well, we've met one 70s Daredevil legend. How about we go meet another? Evel Knievel on the Game Boy Color? Why ever not? I did do his mate Eddie Kidd a few months ago too. When I say I did him, I meant we played his game. Yeah, does that make sense? Good. Great. Anyway, like, subscribe, and thanks, bye.